Greetings, fellow RotoBallers. Here it is, our Week 5 starts and sits. And Dave, I'm going to start first at quarterback. This is a guy who, it's the Halloween season. It's time to start the mascara man. He is going up against the Kansas City Chiefs defense that is allowing the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. 10 touchdowns already through the first 4 games. And in 2 games against them last year, he threw the ball over 80 times. It is Derek Carr. Look, he's already thrown for over 250 passing yards as an average this year. I think he's a big start for me in Week 5.
Love the call, Joey. But before I give my sit, I do want to apologize to our followers for the roller coaster we've been putting them on.
Oh.
Look, 2 weeks ago, we tell you to start Kirk Cousins. Last week, we tell you to sit him. Then we tell you to start Jared Goff. Now, this week, I'm telling you to sit Jared Goff. Mixed messages, right? But that's what these QBs are. They're streamers. And this is not the week to stream Jared Goff in New England. Goff has been in shootout after shootout. Do we really foresee that if it's Mac Jones or even worse, Bailey Zappi? I think both teams would be more than happy to slow the game down and run it 500 times. Sit Goff.
Welcome to the Roto Coaster. Let's move it over to the tight ends. My start of the week is a guy who already has 3 games of over 60-plus receiving yards this season, going up against a defense that's allowing the 2nd most fantasy points to tight ends. 3 touchdowns already allowed to the tight end position through 4 games. It's Dallas doing Arizona. I love this matchup this week. The Cardinals' defense is bad. Goddard's been putting up the numbers. It's a solid play, and he's a big start for me in Week 5.
Now, the sit is a guy I think it should stay on your bench until he proves otherwise. Honestly, it's Dalton Schultz. Even if it's Dak under center, you can't afford another goose egg, folks. And the Rams have faced Dawson Knox, Zach Ertz, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, talent. None of them have broke 40 yards. None of them have found the end zone against the Rams. If I could be out on all tight ends and not named Kelsey or Andrews, I would, Joe, but I can't. So I'm going to keep it to Dalton Schultz. Now I'm going to hit you with our wideout starts. It's going to be Christian Kirk. I love this guy. Now you may be seeing Houston as technically a red matchup, but they've gotten beat up by teams number 1s. Pittman had his best game against them. Sutton took him to task. Big Mike just dropped 120 on them. These are all bigger wide receivers, but I think Kirk is so fast and efficient. Look for him to bounce back from last week. He should be a lock in lineups at this point.
And for my wide receiver sit this week, this is kind of a theme that's going on. And if you've noticed it for watching the show every single week, thanks for coming back. What's up, Carl? But I've been kind of stalking the Steelers offense now for a couple of weeks. And I'm going to stalk him one more time because Deontay Johnson is a sit for me against the Buffalo Bills. He's only averaging over 50 receiving yards a game. No touchdowns right now. And he's going up against a Bills defense that's allowing the 5th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. And Dave, I'm calling it now with Kenny Pickett under center. I like George Pickens a lot more fantasy-wise in this game and moving forward. Deontay Johnson, he's a sit for me.
Let's get hot takey. Let's do it. Now, before I give you our running backs of the starts and sits of the week, I want you to like and subscribe this video. And if you're not following us on TikTok, go ahead and do so at RotoBaller NFL. Now, we said New England would be running the ball 500 times, so it only makes sense that we demand you start Ramondre Stevenson. And if you got Damian Harris, throw him in too. I mean, I think it's Stevenson's season finally. 4 receptions last week, 18 total touches. You'll love to see it, Joe. And the Lions are getting absolutely chewed up on the ground. 2nd best matchup for opposing running backs, which is why Harris, who also got 18 touches, could also, make the most of it and find pay dirt. Start him if you got him in the New England backfield.
And to wrap it up, our running back sit of the week, this is a guy who posted 151 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and you're saying, I got to start this guy this week. But this is the fantasy trick that you must learn, and that's why I'm sitting Rashad Penny versus the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, they've been stingy. 6th fewest fantasy points to running backs this year, only 2 total touchdowns to the running back position. I think Penny takes a step back and resorts back to the numbers he's been putting up through the first 3 weeks. You might think he's a flex play, but he's not. I think he's a sit this week, and I do not like that play. So everyone get ready. Here it comes. Here's our 60-second start, sit, recap starting right now. Here's our Week 5 starts and sits. The mascara man, Derek Carr, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are giving up a lot of yards, a lot of fantasy points right now. I love him as a play. Dallas Goedert averaging over 60 receiving yards over his last 3 games against the Cardinals defense that has allowed 3 touchdowns to the tight end position over its last 4. He's a start. Christian Kirk, red matchup against the Texans. Bread matchup against the Texans. He's the wide receiver 1 right now in that offense. We like him a whole lot. And the other start of this week is the running backs for the Patriots. Who's throwing the ball? Who cares? Stevenson, Harris, start them both.
And as always, you're leaving the following players on your bench if you can. We're saying this is the week the Goff hype train crashes into the New England station. Dalton Schultz cannot be trusted no matter who's under center. Rams have been absolutely locking down tight ends this season. And Kenny Pickett might not be great news for Deontay Johnson, especially taking on a Bills defense. And finally, Rashad Penny may lure you back with a monster week 4 performance, but we say it's fool's gold. New Orleans' 6th worst matchup for opposing running backs. And if you dig this, like and subscribe and go win that league.